A reminder of our top story. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has rejected accusations that Russia is responsible for the current global food shortage, despite Russian missiles hitting the Ukrainian port of Odessa over the weekend.
Pope Francis began a tense visit to Canada on Sunday to apologise to Indigenous peoples for abuses committed by missionaries in residential schools there. It's a key step in the Catholic Church's efforts to reconcile with Native communities and help them heal after generations of trauma. The pontiff landed in Edmonton late on Sunday morning for the first leg of his 6-day trip. He will also visit Quebec City and Iqaluit, the capital of the Nunavut territory.
It's a pilgrimage, first of all, but he qualified it further, and he talked about it as a penitential pilgrimage. He is deeply seized by the fact that terrible things have happened in the past, perpetrated in many cases by people who were representative of the Church.
Some 150,000 Indigenous children were forced to attend these institutions, and according to Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, many were physically and sexually abused.
I work with Indigenous nations to investigate areas around residential school sites using technologies such as ground-penetrating radar to try to find possible locations of the unmarked graves of children who died while at the school or who never came home and have dropped off of the records.
As His Holiness prepares for Mass at the Commonwealth Stadium on Tuesday, for some, the Catholic Church's involvement in the scandal has been the final straw. This comes as 1,300 unmarked graves have been discovered at several boarding schools across the country since 2021.
The queues of holidaymakers trying to get to France at Dover are thankfully reducing. But the political temperature over who's to blame has been ratcheted up. On one side of the argument is former British ambassador to France, Lord Ricketts. He thinks extra Brexit checks are the main problem.
This is the first time we've had the full volume of British holiday departures in the new circumstances after we've left the EU. Because until April 2021, the transition period was going on and the rules still applied as if we were in the EU. After April 21, of course, it was the pandemic. And so this is the first holiday season where we've seen the full impact of the additional checks required after Brexit.
For the British side, it's a lack of French border staff in Dover rather than Brexit-related issues, which has led to the chaos. The MP for Dover, Natalie Elficki, thinks Paris should apologise for the queues after claims that French border staff were late to turn up at their posts. But in response, French MP Pierre-Henri Dumont says the choice to end free movement and a refusal to pay for expanding capacity at Dover is to blame. This is yet another saga in a series of recent spats between the British and French governments, with tens of thousands of holidaymakers caught up in the crossfire. And for some, it's unlikely to end anytime soon.
Even with the full complement of French border force, as we're now seeing today, I think there is a strong prospect of continuing delays at peak times just because of the sheer concentration of traffic and the available places at Dover.
As the school holidays kick off, summer traffic is not particularly unusual. Families having to wait over 10 hours in what one British motoring organisation called a hotspot of holiday hell is certainly not usual, however.
Sunny Portugal is seeing something of an invasion. Beaches along the western Algarve are being invaded by a brown algae from Asia. It's not toxic to humans, but it is putting the biodiversity of marine ecosystems at risk. With the Japanese kelp already altering marine life and affecting fishing along the Portuguese coast.
Essas algas conseguem se filtrar nas
The algae can infiltrate the fishermen's nets and stop the fish being caught by them.
The algae was first detected in the Strait of Gibraltar, attached to the hulls of ships. The seaweed has already been included by the European Union in the catalogue of invasive species.
Vai mudar profundamente
It has profoundly changed the coastal habitat in the Azores. In only 2 years, it managed to become the dominant species of the intertidal zone.
So far, there is no possible way to contain this invasive algae. It proves to be a problem for marine ecosystems and a blot on tourist memories of these summer holidays.
Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has officially launched his re-election campaign. Thousands of the far-right leader's supporters gathered at a stadium in Rio de Janeiro where he was nominated. Pitching the election as a fight between good and evil, Bolsonaro attacked his main challenger.
Nós somos a maioria. Nós somos do bem.
We are the majority. We are the good ones. And we're willing to fight for our freedom and our homeland. We have to attract the young leftists to our side, show them the truth and show them what they have to lose with their candidate. Bolsonaro continues to warn against what he calls flaws in the electoral system. Such attacks in recent months have led analysts to fear that the man dubbed the Tropical Trump may refuse to accept defeat like his former American counterpart. His main opponent, former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, was officially nominated by his left-wing Workers' Party last week. Analysts say the race between left and right for the presidency is Brazil's most polarised election in decades.
In the heart of Vienna lies one of the oldest known still operational bakeries in the country. The Arthur Grimm has been open since the 1500s, but now the bakery and its various shop fronts are struggling to cope, as staff shortages have forced opening hours to reduce and the cost of raw materials continue to rise. Andreas Moderna, the head baker, says, "At the moment we are in a situation where, if I calculate a price today, it will be out of date next week. I must get around 10 emails from suppliers a week forecasting a price increase." And experts say that it's small businesses that are suffering the most. This economist says flour has become more expensive, and above all, energy has become very, very expensive, and small businesses don't have the possibility to absorb those kinds of costs. But the head of the Arthur Grimm bakery thinks inflation will drop at some point. What worries him most is the lack of workers, which seems to have no immediate solution. We are already witnessing the shortage of employees, this economist says, especially in areas where wages are not very high. Companies are finding it difficult to find well-qualified workers. For now, this bakery steeped in culinary history is holding on, but only time will tell whether the dough will continue to rise here.
Charles Leclerc gifted Max Verstappen victory and a huge advantage in the World Championship by crashing out of the lead at the French Grand Prix. The Ferrari driver, in need of a good result to keep his title hopes alive, lost control of his car 2 laps in, after Verstappen had made his first pit stop. It's the Dutchman's 7th win in 12 races, which gives him a 63-point lead with 10 races to go. Lewis Hamilton took a strong second, and Mercedes teammate George Russell's third, giving them 6th and 5th respectively in the drivers' rankings. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz was 5th, questioning his team's decision to make a second pit stop just after he had taken 3rd place from Perez with 11 laps to go.
Okay, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, but do stay with us throughout the day and don't forget to check out all of our top stories on euronews.com.